Hello and welcome to Love Chat with the Love Twins. Okay, today we're going to jump right in. So make sure you're paying attention, get super focused because we're going to jump right into tonight's topic. And the reason we're doing that is because what I have to say tonight is just too important to just like beat around the bush with. So I'm going to start by asking you a question, and I want you to actually let this question sit in before you answer it. Actually sit with it before you answer it, and don't just let it pass over you like background noise, or even like I may be asking somebody else and not you. Just allow it to really land. Have you ever been loved unconditionally? Have you ever been loved unconditionally? And I'm not talking about have you felt like you've been tolerated, or have you felt like things have been accommodated for you when it's convenient? And I'm also not talking about being loved as long as you don't ask for too much or need too much or feel too much. I mean, truly unconditionally loved, where you could be completely honest, where you didn't have to spend the next 3 days managing the fallout from expressing yourself in a healthy way about how you honestly feel, or having a need, a real legitimate human need that you have, and being able to express it without it turning into this whole thing, without feeling like you're asking for something that's not reasonable, or just filing it away because, it's just not worth bringing it up. Have you ever had that kind of love? Let me know in the chat. Let me know if you've ever had that, because I think a lot of us, and I mean a lot of us, have been doing this for over 17 years, specifically in the area of dating and relationships, and over 30 years of coaching my entire life, as a coach and a high performance coach, love coach, performance coach. And a lot of us have been in relationships where we thought we were being loved, where we showed up, we invested our heart, our time, our feelings, where we gave everything we had. And we called it love because we didn't know what else to call it. I know I've been there myself. Tonight, I want us to get really honest about something. And if you can be honest with yourself about this, it's going to create a huge opening for you to experience real, extraordinary, unconditional love. There's a difference between being loved and being tolerated with affection. And for some of us, we have not experienced the difference between those two. And I think some of you have been tolerating more than you should with people you've been in love with or in relationships with for a long time. And nobody has ever given you permission to say that out loud. And I'm telling you, you can say it today. Tonight, that's what we're doing. So I want to start here because this is the foundation of everything. Most of us, we're not taught what healthy love actually looks like. I know growing up, I did not have one example. Actually, that's not true. I had an example of love that was healthy because it wasn't screaming and it wasn't chaotic, and it was my grandparents. But I don't recall ever seeing my grandparents hold hands or give each other a kiss or tell each other I love you. So even that was not the full expression of love for me. And most of us weren't taught what healthy love looked like. We were taught about a version of love that was really just, time going by together, or tolerating one another, or staying together for the kids, or staying together for appearances, or staying together because somebody was too afraid to leave, or somebody didn't know how to leave. And some of us did have healthy examples of relationships, but what I've seen in all the years I've been coaching is that is not the majority of us. And we were also taught through either religion or through our parents, our caretakers, that love means that you forgive, and love means being patient with one another, even if you've been patient for years and you feel like you're running on empty, even if nothing's really changing. And we were taught that love means that you understand and you stick to it and you stick through it and you stand by each other no matter what, even when you're the only one who's really standing for something, or when you've never really felt like you were understood. And I want to be clear. So listen, forgiveness, patience, understanding, absolutely. All of those are part of love. I'm not saying that they're not. But there's something that happened with a lot of us, and it happens so gradually that most of us don't even talk about it because we're not even aware of it. And we can't even tell when it started. And this is what happened. You learn that in order to keep love, you had to keep making yourself fit into what was there, fit into what was being offered. You had to change something about yourself. We learned that we had to edit ourselves before we spoke. We learned to check our emotional temperature before deciding whether it was safe to express how we were feeling. And sometimes it was checking the emotional temperature of the other person because you didn't want it to turn into a big thing. And eventually, over time, what starts to happen is that thing that's really important to you ends up being a question of, is it really worth it to bring it up? Now, it's very valuable to ask yourself, is what I'm about to say to my partner going to bring us closer together or further apart? But I'm talking about that in a healthy dynamic. I'm not talking about that because you're afraid of repercussion, because you're afraid of being shut out, or somebody's going to shut down, or you're going to be, criticized or condemned for it. And this is what I mean. Sometimes we don't even realize that this is what's happening. And when nobody told us is this, that having to edit yourself, having to question if what you feel really matters and is important, having to try and fit into someone else's experience of what love should be, that is not love. That is survival. That's survival inside of a relationship that it's not really what you want. And it's not your full expression of who you are. Right now, I want to be careful because I'm not here to point the fingers at any parents or any partners, any relationship or any situation. What I'm pointing at is a pattern. That's what I'm pointing at. A deeply ingrained, widely shared pattern that a lot of women carry, especially high achieving women, especially women who are used to being the strong one, being the capable one, being the one that figures it out. Because here is what I've noticed in working with clients over all these years, is that women who are the most accomplished and the most driven and the most emotionally intelligent, those are the same women who are often also the best at rationalizing their way through an emotionally insufficient relationship. Let that land. Okay, think about it. Have you learned to rationalize your way through an emotionally insufficient relationship? In other words, a relationship where you don't feel you're getting everything you truly want. So think about it. You're smart and you're good at problem solving. So when the relationship has a problem, you go into problem solving mode. You start analyzing it. You read the books, you read the blogs, you listen to the podcast. You're here right now, which tells me something about you. It matters to you to have healthy relationships. And what happens is when you're not used to having a healthy relationship or at the experience of what unconditional love, real extraordinary love is, then you try to understand and analyze why your partner is the way that they are. And sometimes you extend grace, which is necessary. But when you find that you're the one that's giving and giving and giving, and you give more and more and more, and you try harder and try harder and try harder, and nothing is shifting, then what starts to happen is on the outside, it looks like you're devoted, but on the inside, you feel exhausted. So if you know what I'm talking about, go ahead and type the word yes. I have felt exhausted. I felt like if I work harder in the relationship, then the other person might change the way they are with me. Or if I work harder in the relationship, the other person will see what I mean. So if you've ever worked harder at a relationship than you feel your partner did, you could just type yes in the chat so that I know that you get what I'm saying. And I want you to know, yeah, I see you. I really do see you, because One of the loneliest feelings in the world is to be in a relationship and to be the one who's fully invested in that relationship while the other person is not doing their part. And I want to be clear, there are times in a relationship where, and I'm talking about a healthy relationship, where people say it's 50-50. It's not, it's 100-100. And sometimes your partner is going to be going through something and you may have to give 110. But I'm not talking about sometimes. If you're giving 110, 120, 130 all the time because there's a deficit on the other side, that is not a healthy relationship. So what happens over time when you're in that dynamic is that you stop calling it what it is. You stop calling it loneliness. You stop calling it heartbreak. You stop calling it unfulfilling, and you start calling it, well, this is just the way relationships are. Or, oh, nobody's perfect. Or I just need to be more patient. And here's the thing, sis, the reframe is costing you. It's costing you your peace. It's costing you your joy. It's costing you a true sense of self, like being fully realized in who you are. And it's also costing you your ability to recognize what love actually feels like when it shows up. Because if you get used to being emotionally exhausted in a relationship and it feels easy, you might think that it's not real or it's boring. So I want you to hear this very clearly. Emotional exhaustion is not devotion. It's not real love. It might feel familiar and it might even feel comfortable because that's what you've been used to, but it's not the same thing. And the work that we do, the heart work that we do with our clients, it's about supporting women so they can start to see the difference between unhealthy and healthy, between love and tolerance, between a partnership and that emotional unevenness or that instability that starts to feel like the norm. And when I say that we support you with this work in starting to see the difference, I'm not talking about intellectually, because you might get it intellectually. I mean, feel the difference in your body, in your nervous system. It's in the way that you walk into a room when someone is truly there for you versus when you've been quietly managing yourself to keep the peace. It's a very different feeling. And a lot of women have been in this second one of quietly managing themselves for so long, they've forgotten that the first one, being at ease, being yourself, is even possible. All right, so let's get specific because I don't want tonight to be abstract. I want you to walk away from this love chat with something you can actually use. And so I want to start by talking about the subtle signs that you might be over tolerating in a relationship that you may not be aware of. And I say subtle because the obvious stuff, most of us know. But what about the quiet stuff? What about that slow erosion of something that looks like love and then it turns into tolerating, putting up with, trying to change who you are? The things that get so normalized that you don't even notice them anymore. What about that? So let's talk about that, okay? So I want to give you some signs of things that you can actually look for. So the first sign is you find yourself filtering yourself before you speak. So I'm not talking about choosing your words wisely, carefully. That's wisdom. I'm talking about something different. I'm talking about the moment where you have a real feeling, a real need, there's something that's very true for you. And before it leaves your mouth, you run it through a filter. And the filter might sound like, if I say this, is it going to start a fight? If I say this, is it going to make him pull away? If I say this, is he going to think I'm asking for too much? That's a filter. And then what happens is you're either going to water down what you really want to say so that it fits the filter, or you're going to decide to say nothing. And then you hold it in and hold it in and hold it in. And every time you hold it in and push it down, you become less yourself. So when you're with someone who truly loves and accepts you unconditionally, I'm talking about really loves you, you don't have to pre-edit your emotional reality to make it palatable for them. You're going to be able to say it, and you're going to say it with respect, and you're going to say it with honoring the commitment that you have to one another, but it's not going to be in order to avoid being left, being punished, being, shut out. So if you find that you're constantly in editing mode, then that's worth something paying attention to. And you may not be in a relationship right now, but just notice if you're doing that in your dating life too. Note if you're not dating and you want to be, I'm going to tell you how you can start doing that in just a minute. But if you're dating and you're holding back, or you're not dating because you're afraid that you're going to end up in the same kind of relationship, or that you're trying to avoid being in that kind of dynamic, then it could be that you're running your words through a filter. All right. So that's the first sign. You're filtering yourself. Sign number 2 is, and this was going to be a hard one for some of us to admit, but just take a breath and get real with yourself, because it's so important to be able to do that. If you want somebody to let you be real, you got to be real with yourself. So sign number 2 is you've quietly lowered your standards and convinced yourself you chose to do that. You've lowered your standards and you've convinced yourself you've chosen to do that. In other words, that's what you really want. And this one is sneaky because it doesn't feel like you're lowering your standards. It feels like you are growing. It feels like you're not being unrealistic anymore. It feels like you've let go of a checklist. But there is a real difference between releasing unrealistic expectations that nobody could possibly meet all these expectations and be a real human being, and talking yourself out of what you actually need, because you've decided that it's easier to just let it all go and water it down and make pretend it's not what you want than to want it and be disappointed. So if you started the relationship, let's say, wanting certain things, like your partner to be emotionally available for conversations or for tough moments, or a real partnership where you come together in the good times and in the bad times, a partner who fully shows up and consistently does that, and you're doing the same, and then somewhere along the line you decided that those things were too much to ask for, I want to lovingly challenge you to challenge that narrative, that internal conversation. Because if you have a real need and you're putting that to the side to be accepted, to be loved, then the one that's giving up on that need is not your partner, it's you. And it's not your future partner, it's you. So you've got to tell yourself the truth about that. All right. Now, sign number 3. The relationship feels like a project you're managing rather than a love that you're living and experiencing. And this one hits a little bit different, because a lot of high achieving women who run companies, women who lead teams, women who are excellent at execution, this comes naturally for us. But what happens is when it comes to relationships, you can accidentally bring that same project management energy into your love life. And then the relationship becomes something you're trying to optimize, trying to change. You're tracking his moves. You're trying to strategize to get in front of that. You're managing the dynamic. You're planning conversations like they're business meetings. And that brings out not only this project management, but it also brings out a lot of your masculine energy, which is going to bring out feminine energy from him, which is going to frustrate you of what you want is someone who can lead. So at some point, you get to ask yourself, when did loving someone become this much work? Some of you are exhausted. You feel like it's hard work to be in a relationship. You know what's hard? Trying to manage somebody, trying to track their emotions, trying to get in front of what they're thinking all the time. That is emotionally exhausting. Instead of focusing on you and what you're feeling and what you really want to say and what you want to experience, you're so focused out that you have no energy left for yourself. That's tiring. That's a lot of work. So real love is not a project, okay? And it's not a performance review where you get to tell somebody all the things they're doing wrong and this is what they need to do differently. And it's not something that you have to strategize about to keep it from falling apart. It is something that really gets held together with what both people are bringing to the dynamic. So it's not a project. All right, sign number 4, that you could be in this unhealthy dynamic, that you could be in an over-tolerating relationship and not really experiencing extraordinary love, unconditional love. Sign number 4, you feel more like yourself when he's not around. Stay with that one for a second. One of the clearest markers of healthy love is you feel just like yourself or even more like yourself inside of the relationship. You actually feel like you're growing. You're even becoming a better version of you, not because you're trying to change yourself, but because the best qualities inside of you are being nurtured and brought out. You feel like you're fully there, fully expanded, and you feel safe to be yourself 100%. The real you, not this curated, managed, I hope this is enough version of you. So if you notice in a relationship or in a dating dynamic that you actually exhale when you're not with them in a way that you can't when you're with them, if you feel lighter when he's traveling or when you're doing other things that don't include him, if you laugh more freely or think more clearly or feel more at ease when it's just you or you and other people and not him, that is really important information. This is your inner world trying to tell you something your mind might not be ready to really hear and grasp yet. I remember this in my first marriage. I remember that every time he said he was going to go fishing with his friends or he was going to go do something, I was like, because I felt like I could do just that, just exhale. And I didn't know then that that was a real sign that there was a problem in that relationship. And that's different than just wanting your own space. I'm talking about feeling relieved and relief when that person's not there. So if any one of these signs that I said before landed for you like, oh, yep, I've been there, whether you've been editing yourself or you're quietly lowering your standards and then pretending that that's your choice, or you feel like relationships are a project, or you feel like you can be more yourself when that person's not around, then drop which one you connected with in the chat. Okay, we do read all the comments, okay? And just let me know so that we know where you're at and what you're dealing with. And I want to be really clear about something in this conversation, because I know how easy it is to hear a list like that and then you go into a spiral. I'm not telling you your relationship is doomed if you're in one. I'm not telling you to walk away from anything tonight. What I'm doing here is I'm telling you that awareness is important and it's time to pay attention, because you can't change what you cannot see and you cannot transform what you don't acknowledge. So you can't just hope things are going to change. That's not going to be productive for you. It's going to be a waste of your time. It's going to be end up disappointing you in the long run. So I'm not talking about looking through a lens of hope that keeps you loyal to someone's potential. We had a love chat a few weeks ago about like stop dating or being in a relationship with his potential. But really get real with what's in front of you. And when you can do that, now you may not know what to do next, but that's what we're here for, okay? And part of what we're really, really great at is helping you to see clearly, supporting you in being able to see clearly what you need to be looking at. And not through the lens of hope, not through the lens of fear that keeps you staying because starting over feels impossible, but through the lens of what is your true heart's desire. All right, so let's talk about the other side. because I don't want this to just be a conversation about what's wrong. I want to paint a picture of what's possible, of what real healthy, unconditional love actually feels like, because some of you have never experienced it, and some of you have experienced glimpses of it, but you didn't trust it. And some of you are in it right now, but have been so conditioned by the past that you're waiting for it to fall apart. You're waiting for the other shoe to drop. So let me tell you what it feels like when you are in a real healthy love that's unconditional. Unconditional love feels safe. And I don't mean safe like boring. I mean, and I also don't mean safe like absolutely 100% predictable. What I mean is safe like you can be fully honest with yourself and with your partner, and it doesn't cost you connection when you're honest. You can say, I'm struggling with whatever, work, my kids, my mom, this situation. And he doesn't make that about him. Or I'm struggling with trying to understand this, and he doesn't make it about him. Or you can say, I need help or support with blank. And it becomes a conversation. It doesn't become a problem. So you can be in a bad mood, and then you can apologize for it later, and you know that you're still loved. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about love, like loving you right there in the mess of you, where you don't have to pretend to be another way, and you feel loved. That's what safety feels like. And by the way, P.S., that's not too much to ask for. You deserve to feel safe. But the place you have to feel safe first is with yourself. You're never going to feel safe with somebody else until you feel safe with yourself, being yourself. And if there's something that you're afraid you're going to do or say because that's your pattern, getting support and breaking out of that pattern so you don't keep creating the same chaos in your life. All right, so unconditional love feels safe, and unconditional love feels clear. So let me tell you what I mean by this. You are not waiting for him to pick you. You are not waiting for him to be chosen. You are not auditioning for the part of his girlfriend or wife. You're not waiting to be saved or protected. When you're clear, this is what unconditional love feeling like clarity looks like. You're a woman who knows her worth, not just saying that, but you actually know it. And you know that you are the one choosing. You're actively, consciously, with both eyes open, you are choosing who you are, and you're also choosing whether this person and this relationship is what you really want. It's what you want to spend your time, your attention, your love, your emotion on. That's a whole different world from waiting to see if he's going to pick you, which puts you in a place where you feel powerless, and it'll have you time and time again undermine your true desires. But when you know that you're the one, and you've got to know this, like I said, not just intellectually, I mean your whole body, mind, heart, nervous system is rewired to know that you are the one that's doing the choosing. You can see things so clearly that you know you're the one that's doing the choosing. Because that's a completely different energy than waiting to see what he decides about his feelings or his plan for you in his life. And this woman who is clear, she walks into love from a place of power, not from a place of need. And when the love is real, when it's healthy and it's mutual and it's grounded and it's aligned, not just the feelings being aligned, but the values are aligned, the vision is aligned, it feels like a real partnership between two people who are choosing to be together, not one person holding their breath, waiting to see if they make the cut in the other one's life. That's scary. So two people, both fully in, both showing up, both doing, their part, and both deciding every single day that this is where they want to be. That is what clarity looks like. All right. Unconditional love also feels like you feel like you're known by the other person. So not this version of you that you put forward at work or for public consumption, for likes or followers, not some highlight reel of your life, but the real you, the one who has fears that you don't always like to talk about, but you have them, or the one who has some old emotional wounds that are still impacting your life and you want to heal them and get past that, the one who's still figuring things out and doesn't have to act like she has it all together. That's how you get known. If you're putting some persona or some front up, then that's what people are going to relate to you as, including the men you're dating or in relationships with. So you've got to first feel safe. This is what I was saying before, being yourself so that somebody else can truly know you. Otherwise, you're always going to be putting some front, some version of you forward. And here's the thing, you will run out of energy with that. And then whatever it's that you've been pushing down, pushing away is going to come out, whether it's going to come out straight out or it's going to come out in some inappropriate behavior, some behavior that's not conducive to real love. All right. So you want to know that you're known and safe. That starts inside of you. And you want to be the kind of woman who can choose from that place, not from one who's going to settle because she's afraid that there's nothing better, or she's going to end up alone, or she doesn't know how to do it another way. And at least this is comfortable. I know how to survive this chaos, this disaster. And here's what I want to say to the women who have never had that level of safety and knowing yourself inside. I mean, not even close to ever experiencing that, or you've been close, but you're not fully there. I want you to know that you are not too much. And you haven't not experienced that level of love because you're broken or because you've made too many mistakes and you deserve what you're getting, or, you just don't know how to choose the right person, or somehow you don't deserve it. It's not because of any of that. It's because at some point, and this is the work, the heart work that we do with our clients, at some point you started building your love life from a belief system that was never actually yours. You inherited it. It became a part of your environment, was showing up that way, or it happened once and you decided this is the way it's going to be for me. Or this is what I deserve. This is what I'm worth. Now, you may not say that to anybody else, but you got to at least have the courage to say it to yourself. Or you made a decision about what you're allowed to ask for because somebody told you you shouldn't want so much. That's greedy. That's being selfish. Or don't ask for anything. That's not polite. Or you made a decision and it created a belief about whether love like this is even available for you. And all of those beliefs, every single one of them, they run deep and they are quiet, and you could try and put something on top of it. But here's the thing, it's still going to be there and it will impact your love life until you actually deal with it in a way that not just disrupts it, but replaces it with something that you can really build something beautiful and real with. And it'll be there and it'll show up not in what you say all the time, but in what you accept and what you tolerate, in what you normalize, and what you convince yourself is fine, when everything inside of you is whispering and sometimes screaming, no, it's not. So I want you to pause right here, because what I just described, that belief system, that pattern running underneath, the way that you subconsciously accept less than what you deserve, that's exactly what gets to be uncovered and what gets to be replaced with something that's going to give you the kind of love that you want. And that's what we do in our love breakthrough calls. So if you've never had a call with one of our coaches, or if you've had one and you're really ready to take the next step, this is not like a free coaching call. This is a next step into what's next for you in love. Then I'm going to invite you to schedule a love breakthrough call with one of our love breakthrough coaches. This is a real call. This is a for real call. And it's focused It's a conversation where we're going to look at exactly what's going on, what's actually going on beneath that surface, beneath what's being covered up in your love life, and where together we can see whether the work that we do inside of our program is right, is the next step for you. For those of you who have never had a call, this is a great opportunity to get that level of clarity I was talking about before. You know, a lot of women come onto this call thinking that they just need better dating strategies. And here's what they find out. What they find is that the strategies were never the real issue. You don't need more dating strategies. That's not really what's going on. What you find out is, and what these women have found out, is that it's always a story that they're telling themselves that they don't even realize is a story, or it's a belief that they have that's deeply ingrained, or a pattern that's coming from a fear or belief about what they're worth and what they're allowed to have and what they can actually create. And that shift, that conversation is able to do that kind of a shift, that changes everything. So go ahead and click on the link and schedule your Love Breakthrough call. Again, this is for people who've never worked with us before. Those of you who are working with us, you know how to get in touch with us. Those of you who've had a call, this is if you're ready to take that next step. Like, this is real life and real results. So click on the link in the comments, or wherever you found this tonight, you'll see the link. Go book that call right now. You've waited long enough. Waiting longer is not going to give you more clarity, because you're operating inside of the same morass. All right? Go ahead, click, and schedule your Love Breakthrough call. And here's what I want to close with tonight. I want you to ask yourself one honest question before you go to sleep tonight, not to get yourself into a spiral and a tizzy, not to make any decisions, just from a place of practicing being honest with yourself. Do I feel more like myself inside of a relationship or outside of it? And if you feel more like yourself when you're outside of a relationship, and that's part of what you're afraid of losing, then you'll know that that Love Breakthrough call that you scheduled is exactly what you needed. And that's it, just that one question. Because your answer to that question is telling you something. And you deserve to hear the truth about what's really going on. You deserve a love that does not require you to turn your back on yourself in order to keep it, to, make yourself smaller in order to fit in. You deserve a love where you feel safe inside of yourself and where you feel safe with your partner. You deserve a love where your needs don't show up like a burden. They just show up like your needs. And you deserve a love where you are the woman who's doing the choosing from a place of clarity, from a place of self-worth, from a place of your standards that you're not going to negotiate away and water down. And if you don't have that yet, or if you're not sure whether what you have qualifies as that, that's okay. That's why we're here. That's where you get to book your Love Breakthrough call. And that's why we're going to keep showing up for you here on Love Chat with the Love Twins. So that's all I have for you today. I hope that what you got today is very valuable and it provided something meaningful for you. Subscribe, follow us, share about Love Chat, drop comments, tell me what made a difference for you tonight. And thank you for being here. Thank you for trusting us, trusting this space. And I want you to know you didn't accidentally find this. Something in you led you here. And I don't take that lightly. And I really, really appreciate your trust. So we're going to see you next week on Love Chat with the Love Twins. And until our hearts meet again, always remember that you are loved. Goodbye for now.